The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
All right, and we close out this first World Film Project Week 1 with a song. Joining me again is writer Sharareh Drury.
Hello.
Hello. Well, for some folks, today's music video is finally, and I'll get to that in a sec. Crash Into Me is a video from Dave Matthews Band. It's the third single from their 1996 sophomore album, Crash, which is a member of the Big Three. This album contains singles Too Much, Grammy winner So Much to Say, and Tripping Billies, but it also features live staples from them like Two Step, Liner Graves, and Number 41. It's their biggest album at 7 million copies, 7 times platinum. The song was nominated for Best Rock Performance by a duo or group at the 1998 Grammy Awards. Sharareh, do you know who they lost to?
No, I'm not good at my Grammys trivia.
I always think these are fun. I'm like, well, who was up that year? Who were
they up
better?
against? It wasn't Beyonce. Let's see who was.
What was better? Who were the contemporaries? It was the Wallflowers, One Headlight.
Ooh.
And the favorite song of the Sirius XM station, Pop Rocks. Every time it's One Headlights on. Also nominated was Aerosmith, Fallen in Love is Hard on the Knees, Fleetwood Mac's The Chain, which I imagine is from their live album The Dance, because Rumors was way before 1990. And Matchbox 20's Push.
Interesting.
So Sharareh, this is my favorite band. And people who listen that know me in the show are, when you're going to do it? Why aren't you doing it? When are you going to talk about it? And I've held up. I Weave and Wander. I've seen them in concert 55 times across the United States.
Okay. All right. We got big fan energy.
I've seen them anywhere from the Gorge up by Seattle to SPAC in New York to Alpine in Wisconsin. Those are those are the 3 major places to see them, where you get the best shows, you get the best set list. I've seen them at the Hollywood Bowl, and I've seen them in Charlottesville, Virginia, where they're from. Nice. I visited the hometown. I've been to the bar Dave worked at back then. I've been to all the little pinpointy places.
Awesome.
So yeah. But yeah, so that's why this has been a requested group. And here I am with it. So you've heard this song before, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard this song so many times. I mean, I am not on the level of fandom that you're at, but I do love Dave Matthews Band. I love Satellite. What is it? Ants. I'm gonna mix it up. Ants Marching or Marching Ants.
Ants Marching.
I think Crash Into Me. I mean, obviously it's one of their popular songs. The second you sent it, I was like, okay, this is when I won't feel too in the dark with, because I'm familiar with the song. It's supposed, I think, what it's supposed to mean. I wasn't super familiar with the music video though.
Oh,
and
okay.
I wasn't. And so when I watched it, it was that was the style, I was like, okay, I get the style, this makes sense, for this band and the time frame, but it's such a weird music video for the lyrics. It's so interesting to me. I mean, it is and it isn't, because I feel like the lyrics and what they're trying to say, I mean, I get that it's kind of this worshiping a woman, but it's also kind of this I've heard a million different reasons why this song's lyrics are the way they are. It's like a guy looking at a woman being a peeping Tom, basically.
Yeah,
and it's the music video is very female centric. I mean, it's a lot of women dancing in the woods, in different costumes and things. it's a really beautiful music video, but it's interesting just compared to like what this is supposed to be about.
Right. The song, it's the Police's "Every Breath You Take" for the '90s, where it's the
Yeah.
most it's a really pretty sounding song, and sing along, and then people decide it's going to be their first dance song at their wedding, and it's like, it's
Mhm.
about a guy like staring out a window watching a woman, like
Yeah,
it's uh it's what it is. And but they're like, oh yeah, it's our first dance song. I said, no.
exactly.
Yeah, because Every Breath You Take is about a stalker, the Police song that everybody was like, oh, because it sounds pretty, it's got a pretty riff and everything. This one I did see one time where there's a woman, there's like a documentary or something for Dave Matthews Band, for a woman to talk about, oh, Dave wrote it about the woman that wound up becoming his wife because he was in the studio and he missed her. I'm like, that no, it's not.
I
No.
mean, it does. Yeah, not every song has to have such a like romantic and beautiful
Yeah.
story. Like they can be a little
Mhm.
scandalous, I guess.
And Dave, his lyrics have always been very, very like uh on an equal base and respective of
Yeah,
women, even in the dirtiest of fashions with some of his songs.
yeah,
He's still it's in a respectful way, and you don't
right.
really see with a lot of male rock stars, which he was very open about. And I mean, they like so much to say, which uh, they won their Grammy off of. That's a uh, he was written with Peter Greiser. They had a keyboard player when they were in Charlottesville who quit the band like the year before they signed the record deal and came, and he wrote So Much to Say. And Peter Greiser was a closeted homosexual in Charlottesville, and that's what that song's about. So many people thought that was about Dave, but he's didn't care. It's a good lyrics, good stuff, good
Right.
message, and he's always been for that stuff. So his music very honest, very vulnerable,
Yeah,
stuff like that. The video, like you mentioned, it's directed by Dean Carr. He does this
yeah.
one, and he'll go on to do all the Before These Crowded Streets videos, like Don't Drink the Water, Stay and Crush. But he's
Mhm.
also doing videos for Filter, Ozzy, Deftones, Godsmack, Three Doors Down, um,
Right.
Puddle of Mud, stuff like that. So he'd be a rock video guy for a
Yeah,
bit. This I think the video went more for, let's just do something stylish and cool
yeah,
rather than follow I mean, there is a part where they say hike up your skirt a little more, and the two women sitting kind of move their legs open just a hair,
yeah.
but that's
But it's like
about it.
it's not like literally like doing a flash, doing some flash dance. No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
But it's that's it. That's why I thought it was interesting. It's a little quirky. It's like it's quirky and it's beautiful at the same time because like I'm watching the start of it. It's there's like people playing instruments in the woods. There are these women that I feel like are like what like woodland fairy type looking creatures
Right.
with their makeup and their flowing dresses. Then there's like the one thing that I like that slightly threw me off. There's like I think a moment where it's like there are these women dressed in some kind of like Asian attire and they're
Mhm.
like on I don't know what it is. They're like gliding through the grass.
Yeah, it's like a little race car thing that
Like
they're
a little race car.
I think the like someone pulls and they like come on that rope or something, and I love that they leave in the one biting it in the background, like she like
Totally false. Yeah.
kills over. And I feel like that was an editing room choice, like, you know what, let's
Just
throw
leave
that
it.
in
It's
there.
quirky. But it's quirky and it's also very pretty. And I mean it's a really pretty like setting like out in this forest.
Mhm.
He's singing and he just kind of seems like it's just a fantasy. It's really pretty. It's like this little fantasy world while he's singing these lyrics that like the music's beautiful. The lyrics are not like distasteful in any way,
Mhm.
but then there's like the meaning behind them where you're like literally when he says like hike up your skirt a little more, I mean like that doesn't leave a lot of room to imagination.
No.
But he's not saying it in a really dirty way. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, and like I said, the look of it, the photography is really unique.
Mhm.
And it's this would be knocked off. Like this one came, and then like other videos would start using the technique. Like he's got uses a bunch of like kind of stop motion, different kinds of stop motion
Yeah.
things. They got the overexposed bleach photography,
Yep.
like different kinds of slow motion, weird lenses within that little woods and stuff. But it's also got this thing we talked about months ago when Aaron Newerth and I did the Beastie Boys Intergalactic.
Mhm.
This applies here. Dave's in slow motion singing, but it matches like the mouth of slow motion matches the lyrics going in a way that it
Yeah.
shouldn't because he's in slow motion. But it's a
Yeah.
weird little trick that we noticed in the Beastie Boys video that they're like going really slow, but like their mouths fit with the lyrics that are going really fast. This
That's
one's not going as
interesting.
fast, but
I mean, that's like, I mean, I don't, it kind of adds, I guess, again, to a very like otherworldly kind of experience. I don't know.
mhm.
It's just, it's an interesting like pairing
Right.
for that video and those lyrics, because I feel like, I don't know, like growing up, I was definitely one of those people that would just like sing the song with my friends all the time,
Hmm.
have it like a dance, like it would be like a slow dance at like high school dances.
Right.
And you're sitting here like, okay.
I mean,
I've heard it at weddings and stuff, and you're just sitting here like, do you really think about them lyrics? But it's just because of how beautiful the melody is. I
yeah.
get it's an easy song to, but that's like how some great songs are. It's like they can get you if it's just a good enough lyric and a good enough melody. Like you'll sing along to it and not maybe think about it.
And
But like,
I don't, yes, sometimes, but not in this case. Do I buy the excuse of, well, once it leaves the artist, it becomes whatever the listener thinks it is or what it means to
no.
them. I'm like, no, 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 because those are pretty direct lyrics that you
Yeah.
know what they say.
Yeah.
Like, um, which I like my first experience with the song, um, was when I kind of first really discovered them. I bought, so I had this MTV Buzz Bin CD that was like worthy, and it had "What Would You Say" on there from the first album, and so I kind of
Mhm.
knew a little bit from there. But then "Too Much" was the first single, and the week Crash came out, that weekend I was going on a trip to Notre Dame because my mom's cousin's kid was a volleyball player on the team, so we were going to watch her play volleyball. And so I needed a new album for that drive, and I went and I bought Crash because I thought Too Much was cool. Too Much blew my mind because the the loud orchestral sound coming from just like five dudes was awesome. I was like, that just sounds big, and so that was the only song I knew buying it, and they hadn't released. That was the only single at the time. So I put headphones on and I listened. I had never heard anything like this before in my life. On like, and Crash Into Me was one that stood out a lot on
Yeah.
first listen. That one and Drive In, Drive Out, and like a lot of other ones. I'm just like and a lot of the album credit, like Steve Lillywhite, he produced their first out three albums.
Mhm.
He's just got really good touches in, and he did a lot of U2 albums. Um, he's got a lot of good touches around where just specific layering and different. They're good headphone listens. If
Yeah.
Lillywhite did them, and this one, they just I've like crashed me. I'm like, I think this could be a popular song if it gets on the radio, and it did, and it crossed them from being just MTV to VH1 as well. Like they were hitting
Yeah.
both markets. They got into adult contemporary. Oddly enough, not their biggest song. Uh, oddly enough, they have
I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, it's
it's one of
again,
them, but
it's one of them. I mean, like I feel like for me, if I think Satellite's the first song I think of when I think of,
mhm.
but that's like, but I don't know, maybe everyone has their
Yeah,
song that they think of the most. That's the one that if you bring up Dave Matthews Band, like that's the first one that comes to mind for me. But in a weird, I feel like what's interesting about a lot of his songs is there's, I think to be for any of his songs, like especially like Crash Into Me, it's like for it to
mhm,
be like something that you want to listen to over and over. It's, I don't know, he just has a very unique voice too. It's
mhm.
not, it's soft, it's romantic, it's, I don't know, it captures you. I really enjoy he's kind of like, I know it's a completely different artist, but this is kind of why I enjoy like, you know, music by like Maroon 5 and Adam Levine.
Mhm.
I like a guy who has a very soft, enchanting kind of singing style, I
Mhm.
guess. And that's what I get from him a lot. I mean, obviously like he can rock out if he wants to,
Right. Well,
but Crash Into Me is like it's just, I mean, again, it's interesting again because of the meaning, but it's on the surface, if you're not listening too intensely. I mean, of course, like some of the lyrics are pretty blatant, but it sounds like a really nice, peaceful song.
Right. And like his voice, like being in the fandom of it and knowing a lot of stuff, a lot of times people like to bring up that his voice isn't so much like a singing voice as it is another instrument in the band, because there are a lot of, he has plenty of songs where they like to work on stuff they're on the road all the time. They,
Yeah.
they tour and they bring out new stuff on tour. Sadly, he shelves a lot of his best stuff that he's working on in favor of stuff for albums. But like, he'll do songs where he doesn't quite have lyrics yet, but he knows how it's going to come out vocally, and it still sounds pretty good when he's
That's
just
awesome.
with his stuff. But yeah, so yeah, it's interesting here. Some other points in the video, I think, like Stefan Lassard plucking the bass in
Yes.
water, that's iconic. Also, when he's like this with his hand in front, like
Yeah.
there's a lot of photos that show in here that I'm like, man, that's just good stuff right there. And
Yeah.
Boyd Tinsley with the skirt of violins. Carter, both of the drummer, doesn't appear in here. If you notice the drummer, you only see the legs
Yeah.
and like the hands, because I don't know what was up. He didn't show up in this video. But yeah, there's just, I mean, this is a notable 90s song, a notable 90s video.
Yeah. It's very 90s. The style of the video is classic 90s, 100%.
And Lady Bird recently brought it back in the conversation, brought Dave Matthews Band back into a bit of a reanalysis, as it's a very polarizing band to like. People tell people and they're like, but I'm like, do you know, or you just don't like people that the bro culture you kind of think you associate it with? Is that what you don't like, or do you know any of the
I have
music?
never heard of this before, that people would like associate it with. I don't know. Dave Matthews Band to me is just, I put it in a time capsule with like other 90s bands and songs that I like, but I've never found anything to be bro-y about.
Oh no, you go to concerts, you'll see it tends to be a place where people will just go for a drunk weekend or so. But there's, I don't know, I like the music, so I'm not gonna, as long as I'm not bothered by idiots at a show,
Right.
I'm fine. But there's kind of somebody, when something gets so popular, because in the 90s they were the biggest touring band in the world for a few years, and when something hits an apex, now it's time to take it down. And I don't know, it kind of got that vibe and stuff, but it is what it is. But Lady Bird really helped him come back into a conversation, and people go, you know what, it wasn't so bad. And there was I don't remember the band this guy was from, but he was from some like younger band a couple years ago, and this magazine had him listen to Under the Table and Dreaming, expecting him to like dog on it and hate on it, and he'd get this fun article, and the guy fucking loved it and was appreciating the whole thing. He's like, I'm really surprised. He's like, why would you be surprised? This is like this funk, jazz, fusion, all this stuff. So he's like, this is, why aren't we talking about this all the time? Where is it? Like, and he's like, can we do the other albums too? And the guy's like, I expected you to hate. He's like, why? I'm a musician. I like, so
yeah. No,
that.
I would think like from that perspective, yeah. I mean, his stuff's great. I don't know. I mean, again, everyone has like their own tastes, but like I think what you said a minute ago, it's very accurate. He is a part of like, his voice is an instrument in its own way, 100%. I mean, like just even like the way that it lifts and it falls, and when he says he's like crash into me, like the way that he adds those elements into his singing, it's great. I like it. It's a great song. I can understand why like it's an odd song in some ways because of its meaning still, but he's not lewd in any sense. Like I mean, because a lot of people, I think like a lot of songwriters today, well, maybe I shouldn't put this on all songwriters, but there are a lot of songs out there that don't hide as well.
Right. No.
So I appreciate that this one's not as like blatant.
Music has been less poetic and more blunt as it's evolved.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Less poetic.
Even Dave's lyrics have gotten more blunt because that's what people don't want to read into poetry, I guess.
Well, I feel like for mass marketing, because it's like, that's the thing. It's like, I think it's weird because it's like I did not like this artist growing up. I was not into her until very recently, but I've started to kind of appreciate Taylor Swift's lyrics in her songs a little. I mean, not all of them. I mean, there are some songs that I think are just extremely cheesy, and that's like my point of view. But I also think like some of like her recent stuff, like her old albums that have come out, love it. There's maybe that's just what it is too for every artist. Maybe some people start more poetic and more mature, and then as they grow and become more popular, they need to please a larger crowd. So that impacts the music that they're making, the lyrics that are in their songs. Whereas Taylor Swift started, like, I know that's like such an odd example, but she was extremely popular starting out. And I feel like now that she kind of has all this room to play with, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna make an alt album because I want to, and it's fun. And I did it during a pandemic, and that's great. And I love all of her music that's come out recently because I feel like she's kind of playing and taking risks.
Right.
But it's interesting how that works for some artists, how they start out versus where they are like as they've matured and had more success.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. Like a lot of people don't like DMB's output past X point. Like every time a new album comes out, people jump ship. You know, and I think that's probably with every artist. But I'm like,
that happens for sure.
Sure, his old stuff, people is better, but I'm like, he was a hungry, broke artist in the 90s living in Charlottesville in his mid to late 20s, traveling in a van up and down the United States. Now he's got kids in college. He's rich. He's happy with he's not in dark places and odd spells anymore.
Right. Well, so, you know, that's a big part of it too. Yeah. Like if you're not living through some things, maybe as much anymore, that's going to impact you 100%. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I know. And if you don't like his music and stuff, don't hate him as a person, because look him up. Look what all him and his bandmates have done for a lot of things all over that they don't have to do. And it's just, I'm like, how, like, he's on your side. That's all I gotta say. he, you know, like you look up all the stuff. Yeah. Like he's just done so much good stuff that he really wouldn't have to, but it's respectable. Not that he's the only artist that does.
Right, for sure.
But, yeah.
No, but that happens. People kind of can't like sometimes split between like a person and like the work that they're doing. That happens for sure. Yeah. The hardships of fame.
The hardships of fame. Yeah. So, okay. Well, Sharareh, that'll do it for this week. Thanks for talking DMB with me today. Where can people keep up with everything you got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. Just, find me on the Twitterverse at Sharareh Drury. Just DM me, hit me, send me songs that you want me to listen to now. If this hasn't already sparked some conversation, just send me them my way and I'll check them out.
There we go. All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD, written work on whysoblu.com. Next week, Sharareh, you and I will be here discussing Sodoma Reykjavik, which is also known as remote control. It's from Iceland. But until then, always remember to keep the positivity in your online film chatter.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.